think we should go? It just seems to pass us by. And before you know, you didn't have a time to fly. Yeah, it's true.
Hello and welcome to the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's guest joins me all the way from the Netherlands. He has a new song out right now called We Should on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms. And during the interview, I learned that he has another new song coming out Friday, August 13th. Before we get the episode started, please make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And on that note, please welcome Calundé. I'm sitting here with Calundé, an indie pop / singer-songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist based in the Netherlands, which is really cool. You're the first artist I've interviewed outside the country who was not in the UK. So kind of cool to branch out, get a little bit of the Netherlands in here. I've found your newest single, We Should, on Spotify's Fresh Finds Pop page. Playlist, and it was released July 9th, so pretty hot off the press. It's a nice, fun, and catchy pop song filled with like beautiful harmonies. I love all of your vocal deliveries on this song. What was the writing and recording process going into this song? Was it any different than previous releases so far?
Well, I actually started working on that song around a year ago, and I'm renting like this studio space that I'm sitting in right now. So I didn't really have that space then, so I just did it in my student room, which was a very small room, so I couldn't really like get all my guitars out. So I just started playing and got like one out of the cage and then put it back and then get the other one out and get it on my bed and just such a hustle to get it done, but I kind of made it in one night and redid it in this space and then it was done. So a pretty quick song actually.
Oh, wow. So it was a little bit of a hassle being in that small room, taking all your guitars out, having to put them back, and that's funny.
Yeah, but I liked it though. I liked it, but it's better to be here actually.
Yeah, it's funny how when you have like less space to do something or less equipment, there can sometimes be an energy that gets into it that you probably can't replicate, or you did in this case. But it's interesting when you have like a demo of something and then you compare it to the final product and you're like, yeah, there was still something really cool in that demo,
Yeah, I kind of believe that demos are the best versions of your song because you can really hear the potential of the song.
Right.
And you know what direction it needs to go to, but it still is not where you want it to be.
It's almost like it could be anything at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So well, as an artist, I know exactly where it should go to, but I also hear that it's not there, and just having that thing in the music is something great. Plus, it's the first moment as well, so the initial energy is in the demo.
It's like you're seeing the seed of a song before it grows into what it's supposed to be, and it's a nice. It's almost like you're a parent. You're like watching it grow, and like as a baby, you'll never get to see that song in that situation again, or maybe you can go back and listen to it, but it's different.
Yeah, it really is different, but I think the songs are better now than the demos were, but I kind of wanted to keep it as close to the demos as I could, so yeah, it's the best of both worlds, I believe.
Do you remember how you started this song? Like what instrument came first?
Yeah, well, I actually started after watching a tutorial of Dayglow.
Oh, shout out to Dayglow. Yeah,
exactly.
He's the man.
So I started like messing around on a Juno plugin, I believe. It's a Tall Uno X. That's how the plugin is called. And I just started messing around with the arpeggio. and that's pretty much the backbone of the song.
That's awesome. I love that he does that. That he does those like break down how I made this song.
Yeah, it's cool, especially to see them, because there are a lot of tutorials on like dance productions and stuff like that, but not a lot on indie songs. And Golden
Yeah.
Vessel does them too, and they're great to watch. They're really fun to watch and really helpful and learnful as well.
Who else does them?
Golden Vessel, I don't know if
Oh, I
it's
don't
an
know them. I'll have to check them out.
Australian producer and songwriter. He's great.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. It's always like trap beats or EDM.
Yeah, exactly
I'm
right.
like, okay, that's
How to
cool,
get
but
this
like,
trap? How to get your 808 as as
yeah.
loud as possible?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, maybe I'd like to figure out how to get this guitar to sound nice and sweet.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of things to learn in that realm, but not so many tutorials on that. So it's cool to hear that and see that as well.
Yeah, and for me, when I watch it, it's like he's doing it on Logic, I do it on Logic, so it's like, oh wow, it doesn't look more complicated than maybe one of my projects. So it almost
Yeah,
inspires me to be like, oh well, I can do it. Like I'm looking at his thing right now, and it looks just like mine would. It's just for some reason he's got like some magic sauce on it.
yeah, but it's whatever you're comfortable with. So for me, I used to work in Logic a lot, but it's Ableton for me now, and I can still, well, some of my favorite producers still work in Logic, and I can't blame them for it, but it's not helpful for me anymore. Well, it is in some degree, but it's just it does not work the same way my mind works, and Ableton does that thing a little bit more for me. So
Gotcha.
Ableton is go-to for now, but I'll maybe switch to something else in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's good to expand your vocabulary and try different things because I never thought about it that way, but it's like what works best for your brain, what feels like it matches your brain, and
Yeah, it's a workflow thing, right? So it's a sequencer or just a DAW just works uh, in a certain way, one way or another. It's just meant for this way of working, and uh, it either fits or it doesn't. So, well, if you just, it's whatever, man. You can just work your way around it. But uh, I believe there are just some matches that you can easily find by just trying them out. And I
abs-
didn't really try them out because Logic was the thing for me to use first, and I always thought that that was the one and only solution because all of my friends were using Logic as well, and now Ableton it is. So yeah,
yeah,
it's cool.
I've used Ableton a little bit, but it was mainly always Logic. I used like the very beginner version of Ableton, so it's not really like a great comparison, but uh, there's always a little bit of a learning curve when you're starting out with
Yeah,
something new, especially if you
exactly.
have experience doing something else. You're like, why is the scrolling the opposite way? Or why can't
Yeah,
I just zoom in doing like the little
yeah.
finger motion? Like I have to
They
do.
they have that on it now. So
Oh, they do because they didn't used to, right?
nah, exactly. It's integrated now because of the MacBook
Right,
trackpad
right.
thing, so it didn't really work, but it does now, so that's great. But in the end, it's just music. I wish I could like mix my record on a big analog desk and
Right.
get that done as well. It's just whatever works for you and whatever sounds best. And I believe that every sequencer sounds the same now. They don't really color your sound anymore as they used to back in the days. Uh, it's a new era for for music making now. So it
Yeah, it'll be
works properly.
interesting to see where things go from here.
Yeah, it will.
So I was reading a little blog post about your new song, We Should, from Kid with a Vinyl. And
Oh, nice.
they said the lyrics speak to embracing spontaneity and eliminating the chains of hesitation and overthinking, which I thought can be applied, of course, to really anything in life, but I think is incredibly applicable to songwriting itself. I feel like overthinking a song is like the fastest way to really kill it, to like really kill how good it can be if you put too much effort thinking into like, oh, well, I don't know about that lyric, even though it rhymes, maybe it doesn't feel exactly right. It's like if you overthink it, that song might not be what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I think as a creator, you just have, or just as an artist or whatever, you have a listener and a creator within yourself. And whenever the listener is not agreeing with, or just does not agree with the creator, it won't match. So, and that's where all the trouble starts. So whenever you appreciate what you're doing and just give yourself some space to create the things that you want to create, and just allow yourself to hesitate and just make decisions and scrap them, and just be creative, there probably just won't be a problem with it. But however, yeah, well, a lot of songwriters that I know are questioning a lot, and it's a great thing, but it can also just kill your momentum. So yeah, I believe that's it.
There's definitely a fine line between putting in like the proper amount of effort into something and putting in like too much effort into things that don't matter really. Do you feel
Exactly.
like there are two sides of you? I know you said like the listener and the creator. What's that communication look like, Like do you have to like sit down and be like, okay, what is this side thinking? What is that side thinking?
Um, well, I just don't really think that there's a direct communication between like those two figures, but I do think that it's just a manner of allowing yourself to fail and just create something and just come back to it and think, hey, this sounds like complete shit, and I just need to throw it away. But we also live in like a world where everything seems to be perfect right away, and I don't really think that that works for a human, really, right? So you cannot expect from yourself that everything you create is right off the best thing ever. So yeah, it's just allowing yourself to do to try out new things, and maybe find something really cool, but maybe also find something really shit.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to create those things that maybe you're excited about for a second, and then you come back the next day and you're like, God, this is shit. But
Yeah,
the
exactly.
good thing about that is that now you know what doesn't work. It's like the whole Thomas Edison
Exactly.
things. Like they're like, were you discouraged that you made 750 versions of the light bulb that didn't work? And he's like, no. It's like, even though I didn't just find one way, of course I'm butchering this quote right now, but it's like I didn't find the way to make the light bulb work. I found 750 ways to not make it work, something like that. And
Yeah, and I think that's a little more worth doing than trying to get that one shot of perfectness, because you
right,
will never hit it. You will just never hit it. That's a fact for sure. You will never hit the one perfect shot. Well, maybe like once every 2 or 3 years, you will make something great right of the project, or But yeah, it's just worth investing time in trying new things, really, and not overthinking everything.
yeah, it feels like that's been something I've been saying when it comes to somebody who maybe is too nervous to put out their first song or their first project because they're worried, one, how people are going to receive it, or two, they say like, I'm a perfectionist and I just want it to sound perfect before it's out. And it's like that will not happen. It just won't. You have to be confident that what you've got right now is good enough, and be confident that going into the future, you will get better and things will get tighter and you won't make the same mistakes that you did before. But you have to learn what those mistakes are
Exactly.
in order
Definitely.
to not
Yeah.
make them.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So for your song Higher, you did a collaboration with, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it,
Mele Jute.
Melayute. Man,
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I'm so glad you said it first. That sounds way better than what I was going to say. Melayute.
Mele Jute.
Yeah,
Mele Jute.
that's a great name. And
Very, very Dutch as well. So.
that's awesome. Yeah, you guys did a great job with that song. It's really funky. How did
Nice.
was this your first collaboration that you've done?
Well, actually, he was some sort of a teacher of mine back
Oh,
back
wow.
a few years ago. I'm still in my Bachelor of Music, and he used to teach at some degree of that, education program. So I met him there, but I already knew about his music before he became my teacher. So um, it was a very cool moment to actually have Mele Jute as a teacher in class, and like, wow, Mele Jute, what the fuck? So yeah, I just learned a lot from him, and well, I just released my first songwriter producer ish song last year, and then he pretty much right after messaged me like, hey, we need to make a song, and it's finally out, so that's great.
How long did that take to get you guys to get that song from start to finish, you think?
Well, we did 3 or 4 sessions, and well, it was very funny because we did a session at his place, and then we like just talked for 7 hours or something, and we didn't really do anything. And then in the last 30 minutes of the session, we made the full song
Oh,
in
shit.
like a demo version. So it was a very cool experiment to be just like have these good vibes and just talk and get the song done in 30 minutes.
Wow, that's
Yeah, that
cool.
was cool. Yeah, that's crazy.
Did you already have the song kind of written, or did you just write it literally?
Well, just the writing process. So Mele is also a producer, so we kind of did that thing ourselves. So I think like he did the drums on that thing for like 15 minutes, and I started playing this funk riff, and then we did some vocals for it, and then bass, and then the full demo was pretty much done already. So
Gotcha. So when you were
we did
doing
like 3 mix sessions afterwards. So
Okay. So what felt different, if anything at all, about this process versus how you approach your records where it's just you?
well, a lot of the hesitation that I usually have when mixing a song was completely gone because I really trust Mele's ears because he's insanely talented. So yeah, it all went pretty quickly. So we had to get the song done in 2 days, and usually we take like 2 months to mix a song. Uh, but for this one, we just thought to do it very quickly, and we just sat down and be like, well, let's get it done, and pretty much without any hesitation, we mixed the song and got it to the engineer in time, which was pretty crazy because usually it just takes so much more time and so much more hesitation and doubt and all of that. So yeah, that was a pretty mind-blowing experience for me, and a good reminder to just not mix every song by myself and
Yeah.
get some people on it to get it done easily and faster as well.
It's amazing how someone else can really bring out the mix, like just somebody else's ears hearing it for the
Yeah,
first time or hearing things that you wouldn't hear is like the quickest way to get something sounding its best possible version.
yeah. Mele can mix very well, and I can mix. Well, I'm doing the mix downs for my own songs as well, so we both really know what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, it was a fun. Well, actually, while we were talking about some ideas, we kind of made them, and was like a back-to-back mix session to get everything done and make it sound cool.
And it also gives you time and like energy to like chill while somebody else is working on it, and then you get a moment to be like,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
like now
exactly.
you're excited to work on it, as opposed to every session it's you coming
Mm-hmm.
back to it, and then by
Yeah.
the end of it you're like, you're almost burnt out because you've heard it so many times and you're the
Mm-hmm.
only one that's bringing something new to it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, speaking of mixing, that is just one of many things you do. You write, you record, and produce and mix all of your own music,
Yeah.
with the exception of Hire, where you worked on it together with Melayute.
Exactly.
So
Meliut.
Melayute,
Meliut.
what are some of the pros and the cons of doing all of this by yourself, wearing all of these hats?
Well, it saves a lot of money.
That's number one.
Number one. Well, I'm going to release a bigger project in September, and uh, I think I saved myself around 3,000 euros, which is probably $3,500, I
Something like
believe.
that.
Yeah. So that's great.
Is that what you would have spent on mixing?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So it's 9 songs and probably around 300 ish per song.
Wow.
So yeah, that will be a very expensive joke, but
Well, I'm excited we're getting 9 songs in September. I didn't know that until now.
yeah, well, it's still not officially announced, so
Oh,
we'll
well,
still have to.
when it comes
Yeah,
out, I guess it will be. But no, that's awesome. I'm excited.
yeah. So yeah, and it's great to have that done. I'm actually need to do the final retouches for the mixes right after this interview. So yeah, it's going to be done this evening, which is cool.
Very
But
nice.
the cons of this whole doing it all yourself is you can never be surprised of anything. So if someone works on a song or just just works on it and either plays something on an instrument or sings or mixes it, there will be a moment that you just refresh your mail and get the new version and just listen to it and don't know what to expect, which is very, very interesting and a very cool way to collaborate. That's probably the most awesome thing about collaborating is getting that energy from just listening to what they contributed to.
Yeah, yeah. Contributed.
So, uh, yeah, that's always a good thing. But you just don't have that feeling when you're doing it all by yourself. It's just it starts living in your head as well, right? So uh, the only changes that you can do is what your own thoughts are, really. So I just thought about a song that I need to retouch yesterday night. I'm just gonna redo that uh, now or just after this interview, right? And that's the only thing. What if someone else would just fix that for me? I would probably be super surprised to hear what they came back with. So
Right. And
that's
not
the
just
only thing.
not just fix those things, but add things of their own that
Right,
really blow your
exactly.
mind, or even take things out that you didn't realize were maybe cluttering up the mix that you don't need.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, that's not always a nice thing to happen, but or to just have. But I like the all doing it myself thing for now. It's a great way to show off what I'm capable of, but I'm probably not doing it again uh in this exact process as I did it now, because it's very it's such a huge workload, and it takes so much time and so much energy, and it's not fun anymore to get back to songs. And do them over and mix them again and do new vocal takes and just getting all of this stuff done. It just takes so much work. So I'm just not doing it again in this capacity, but I love the creative control of everything. So that's cool.
Yeah, the creative control is definitely nice, but it is good to change things up, like not doing it quite in this capacity, because going into the future, if you do have other people that you're working with are taking certain liberties with your songs, or they have certain things they're working on, you have the smarts when it comes to like the mixing or when it comes to doing the vocals, so that you know how to direct them if something sounds wrong. Like, whereas earlier, if you didn't do all this work, you might not have the vocabulary to express what sounds weird or what needs to be fixed or what sounds really good.
Yeah, it's a very learnful and helpful process. So I'm really like almost thankful, if that's the right word for it, that I can do all those things myself and get it done myself. Because it's learning me exactly, as you said, how something should sound, or how I just, for communication purposes, this is great too, because I know how to communicate to a mix engineer in the future. I just know what I want and I just know how to get there as well. But maybe he'll just add to that, and that will probably make a song better. He or she, obviously, but
Of course. Uh,
um,
what do you think is the hardest part of this entire creation process for you, and how do you think over the years you've improved at that thing?
um, well, I think it's pretty much all production. So I want to get better at songwriting as well, but the I just I'm in school for electronic music production, and I got a lot better at doing that. So that's the pretty much the only thing that really got better the last year.
Gotcha. Well, it helps to be going to school for that to get better for sure.
Yeah, exactly, and having the time and the money to do so, the
Right.
student loan, right?
Yeah. And just, I mean, practicing it, because, you could go to school for that and not really do anything outside of the work that you're supposed to be doing for class, but you have a whole project that you're working on simultaneously. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of time and effort you're putting into this, which naturally it's going to get better.
yeah, exactly, definitely.
Awesome. Well, that's going to take us over to the last five, where I'm just going to ask you five questions and we'll be done.
Nice. All right,
Well,
let's
the
go.
first one we kind of already talked a decent bit about, but that is Logic or Ableton. I usually like to ask a lot of producers that question. But we know Ableton, right?
Well, Ableton is great, but I still love Logic for their mixing workflow. And I try to get that back in Ableton, but it mostly gets super messy because while in Logic you can, I think they upgraded their buses and send returns to 1,000 buses and send returns now,
Good
which is
God.
something you absolutely cannot do in Ableton. Um, and it's also just not very efficient to do so, because they'll just stack up, for the nerds in here, but they'll stack up uh, just right above your mastering, or just your master bus, I'm sorry, and it will be, it will just look very messy in your screen. But I like having the send returns to just get some channels through that, and it's better than just an audio effect rack, which
Right.
also works, but that's even workflow wise a bigger mess than getting send returns. So for the most part, it's Ableton. For mixing, it probably be still Logic, but I'm actually still mixing in Ableton. So
But it's good that you can recognize the pros and cons of both.
yeah, yeah, I'm very happy to know that.
Question number two is, what do you think is a perfect album front to back?
Like an album as a definition, or just like
That's funny
An
because
example.
I let people decide what they think it means. I mean, when I ask, it's for like specific albums, but I like when people give like a generic, oh, a perfect album has to be like this kind of album.
In the end, it's still an art expression, right? So it will be a bit strange if there would be a formula uh, to it. But
Yeah.
there are some really, really good albums out there. Um, I really love D'Angelo's Voodoo.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I love Tame Impala's Currents.
Nice.
Yeah, I just well for me, well the last Bon Iver record was a great one as well.
I
Yeah, exactly.
gotcha. I haven't listened to it more than once, I think.
Well, I actually bought it in a vinyl shop because I knew it was a good record, but I didn't really have the time to listen to it properly. So I was at a vinyl store, like, well, let's buy the thing,
Right.
right? And listen it front to back, and man, I was just tearing up. So it was a very, very great experience listening to that. But it's well, most of the albums I uh, tend to prefer are very uh, based on sonics and very well mixed songs,
Well, that makes
rather
sense.
than
Bon Iver
well
is up there
written
then.
songs. Yeah. So it's always I like mixes more than lyrics, which is pretty strange, but I still um the songs on Voodoo and on Currents, they are really good, but it's not like some sort of Bob Dylan song where just
Right.
lyrics are culturally celebrated, you know. So yeah, I just like mixes so much more than the best written song ever. There's just something about someone playing guitar and just singing a song that I don't really like because I've heard it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And the song can still be amazing, but most of the time I just I just get out really soon. I lose my attention and lose interest like super super quickly because I've heard it all before.
Yeah. I totally understand. And what's funny is within the last 6 months, maybe to a year, I've really kind of flipped a little bit where now I'm interested in what somebody can do just with like a guitar and singing and maybe like, a piano or whatever like that. But in general, I'm still gravitating more towards what can people do with like a crazy mix? How can they make these sonics sound really interesting? But like recently I've been listening to Towns Van Zant, and he's like, late 60s, early 70s, and kind of like country, like alt country. And I don't know, he just has a really cool way of filling sound uh, without it being cluttered at all, because he didn't have that many tracks back then. But there's one song in particular I would like to know what you think about it, because it's really interesting what he does. I'm looking it up right now with so little. It's called No Lonesome Tune. I guess I'll just send it to you after. But 1972, and he just like has this weird piano part that comes in that it's really interesting how he decided to fill out a song without having all these crazy weird effects, which back then they could have done some stuff if they wanted to at that point. But it's a really cool analog way of making things sound like uneasy and kind of just strange, but at the same time not feeling too foreign.
Yeah, I'll just have to hear it to know what
Yeah,
you're
I
talking
shouldn't
about.
just keep
But,
explaining it all. I'll let you just
but
listen to it.
like the '70s songs are great too, right? So I just love. Well, that's not really '70s, but I love a lot of the old Prince stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So that's he could make very very cool albums as well. Um,
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like the first album, he did everything by himself for the most part.
it's crazy. It's crazy. Isn't it called For You?
I think maybe, I'm not sure. I always forget what the names of them are. But yeah, his first album, I heard
Yeah,
he
it's
had
crazy. It's insane.
I read that he had like a guy that was supposed to be producing it for him, and like within a week or 2 weeks, he was like telling the dude like don't touch this, like I'm doing everything, and the guy was like pissed.
There's a very cool podcast series with one of the engineers that worked with Prince in the Purple Rain era, which is very cool to listen to
That's awesome.
because she did some mixes for Prince and engineered the sessions, but he did like 24-hour sessions. So
Oh my God.
I mean it's a crazy thing to realize that you can put out so much music in just that condition.
Yeah,
And
you'll have to
doing
send
sessions.
that to me. I want to check that out.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's crazy. It's one of the best ones out there. But yeah, it's crazy to have someone like that. Not how do you say this, man? To like lose that person, right? So
Oh
it's
yeah,
crazy that he's gone, but
like he left so much though.
yeah, exactly. He left a lot. So
You got to be grateful for that. It's like
yeah, definitely. Of
it's
course.
amazing, and it's amazing probably what's in the vault that we haven't even heard yet.
Yeah, I heard they collected 8,000 songs out of his vault.
Oh my
so that's
God.
crazy. But yeah, that's very understandable if he did like 24-hour sessions multiple times a week. Yeah.
That's
every
superhuman.
week. So yeah. It's not human like. Exactly.
Question number 3 is, who's your dream artist or producer to work with?
I don't know. Cuz there are some people that I really admire, but I just don't really know if I would still admire them as much as I do now if I met them. So
Yeah.
I would love to do a session with Tame Impala, but the mystique would probably be completely gone if I know the guy. So
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way, but you're right.
So yeah, there are a lot of people that I really admire, but yeah, if it just works out, it works out in a session, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I just don't really, uh, get too much attention to that. I just we'll see what happens, but it would still be cool to work with guys like Jungle or Tame Impala.
Right. I thought a cool artist who I could see you working with sometime in the future maybe is a guy called McGee. Do you know him?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This Museum of what was it?
Museum of Contradiction.
Right? Man,
Crazy album.
damn. That's one that's a project that I wish I could hear again for the first time. Right? It
Wow, yeah.
completely blew my mind when I first heard it. Like the CZ song.
Which one?
I believe
Oh,
CZ.
yeah, CZ. I call it CZ over here in
all
the
right,
States.
yeah, that's probably
CZ. Yeah, that is a great one. That one, what's funny is when I first heard that album, it's funny you want to go back and listen to it for the first time, because when I heard it, I was like, the only one I really cared about was that song, CZ.
yeah.
And
Well,
now,
there are a couple great ones on there, right?
Yeah,
But
there's
it's
a lot of
very
slow burners.
experimental. Yeah. Western is great too.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, there are some crazy songs on there.
the one
So
after it is probably my favorite now. It's
nice.
isn't wow, what is
Isn't it convenient?
Isn't it convenient? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's cool that
That's crazy.
that's the one you mentioned, because most people would probably talk about the one. What is the one with like it's like the balcony. The cover is like a balcony.
Yeah.
It's
I
got
know. Pronounced
me.
McGee.
Yeah, pronounced
Right.
McGee. That's like the
Yeah.
one everybody gets into. But now I never want to listen to that because I heard it so many times.
Well, it's still a cool. I never really like got into the album songs of that project. So I just like a few days ago checked that project again, and there are some really really great songs on there,
There
and some
are.
really great sonics as well. And
Yeah, he's a master of like sound, getting weird,
yeah,
crazy
he
sounds.
is, he is. But I heard he was a guitarist as well, or he is still a guitarist. So he just went to LA to become a session guitarist, and that probably didn't really work out the way he wanted to. And then he started producing, which I'm very happy with,
Yeah,
because it
yeah, we
sounds
all
so
benefit from that.
exactly.
I think
It's
he's supposed
crazy.
to be putting out something new pretty
Yeah,
soon.
I saw an Instagram post that he like made a photo of two tapes or something like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'm like, come on, don't be cryptic. Just tell us what's happening.
yeah. Yeah, that would be a cool guy to work with, but same thing goes for him, right? So the mystique would probably be completely gone
Yeah,
if I knew how it's done. You know, there's something magical about not knowing how a song or just a sound in particular is made.
absolutely. But
And
even then, as he gets older and keeps doing it, he'll get better. So even if you did work with him at one point, you could still be blown away by how he does something later.
exactly, right? Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
Yeah, it would be
question.
cool to work with him. Would be very awesome. But
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say no, but at the same time, I see what you mean. You might
yeah,
get a little.
well, if I would have the opportunity to work with him, I absolutely wouldn't say no. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so
So,
yeah, would
question
be
number
very cool.
4 here is what's on your musical rotation right now?
There's a new. Well, let me see. There's this new Sam Fender song that I really like.
Sam
It's called,
Fender.
yeah, 17 Going Under. That's how it's called.
Okay.
And the new Unknown Mortal Orchestra.
Oh yeah,
That
that life.
live. Yeah. Um. There's a new like housey kind of song from Duskus, which is called Hard Times. Like that one a lot.
Okay.
Um. Yeah, I just found out. Uh. Well, I just rediscovered actually. A 2014 album by Hearts. That's an Australian like songwriter and producer as well, and he has this um, like psychedelic funk song which is called "Lovers in Bloom,"
Okay.
and it's crazy as well because it feels like Prince, but it sounds like Tame Impala on some weird way.
That's
It's
kind of
very
cool.
yeah, it's very interesting, and he's a very young guy as well. So
It's called
it's
Heart or
cool.
Hearts.
Hearts.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you just
very
spell
cool.
that the normal way? Because I know there's a band that spells Hearts Haerts.
Um, yeah, it's now we need to spell in English, which I never do. uh, H uh ARTS.
Oh,
That I believe that's what it.
Harts. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, I'll definitely check that out. That sounds really interesting. Prince and Tame Impala.
yeah. You can really hear that's Australian for a weird reason, right? Like the
Uh huh.
Australian indie is in there for some weird reason. It's very cool.
Nice. Yeah, definitely check out that song after this interview. The last question here is what is your favorite decade of music?
Well, it would be very obvious to say the 80s, but as much as I like it, I'll probably hate it as much too because well, there were some very very great albums made in that era, but
There were some rough ones for sure.
yeah, I think that's equal, right? So there are as many uh bad songs as great songs as well. And it's a little strange too, right? Because I'm 21 years old right now, and it's pretty weird to like think back of an era that I've never lived in. So,
Right.
I like the music, but I've never like understood the time phrase of which it was released in. So, um, well, just for the music part, I think the 70s and the 80s were best. But I'm maybe if I lived in that time, I would probably hate it or something. I don't know.
Well, you'd probably be listening to more indie stuff within like the 80s, because now that I think of it,
Yeah,
I feel like there was a lot of really popular 80s songs that were just awful. But on like the indie side,
yeah. There are a couple like really, really good albums in that era, but ever since they did this gated reverb thing,
yeah.
man, some people took it too far, man. It's
Yeah.
just everything sounds the same. And there's this radio station called Sky Radio here in the Netherlands, and just everything you hear is like not the springboard, but the gated reverb thing,
Right,
right? So
right.
you just put on the radio and it's that's all you hear.
That's the surefire way to make your song sound like an 80s song.
Yeah,
Just put gated reverb on everything.
man, it's it could be awesome too, because I did it like the real old-fashioned way a couple weeks ago, and it's really cool if you just do it if you just control your gate the right way, so it
Right.
really like sucks up the holes in your, like, the empty spaces in your drum rhythm. But like most of the 80s guys just threw it on there, and the gate wasn't like doing as much as
It was a little overdone.
yeah, it's very overdone, and there are so many cliches in 80s music that I don't really like. Uh, but again, if they are used on great songs, uh, they will make sense. But most of the time, it's just yeah, shit, really.
Yeah, it really depends on how you use it, and that really goes for any
Yeah,
effect, you know. They'll probably be
yeah,
saying that
exactly.
about reverb in the 2010s. How many indie songs do you know that have like they just throw this crazy amount of reverb on and drench it because
I
it
think
sounds
the
like cool, quote unquote.
the zeros and early tens are like the worst era for music
Really?
so far.
Wow. Hmm.
I really think, like production wise, because you can really hear that there's a change going on within the music. So everyone's going from real desks to Pro Tools to,
Right. Yeah.
oh, now we can do it everything. Well, we can do everything in a laptop, but the laptops were not as great as they are today. So, well, technology is like moving very quickly, but you can really hear the progress of technology, right? So
Yeah.
if you just listen to uh, a zero song, unless it's mixed in a great studio with a great engineer, it will probably sound great. But we also had the CD era back then, so all the dynamic range was pretty much gone, because the louder the song, the better. So they pushed it to the absolute limit, and all the dynamics were gone. And now that we have Spotify and all the streaming services, um, we're starting to get that back, and starting to hear more creative people doing things on their own, like me, and like a ton of other people. And I think that's a great thing happening now. But ever since that, well, not ever since, but you can really hear the change, and that's not really a great thing. And especially like the reverb things, because in the early zeros, everything was like pretty dry and not a lot of reverb at all, and then someone just put on a lot of reverb on something, and everything was like drenched in
Yeah.
a lot of reverb. And now it's slowly like coming back to a reasonable amount of using reverb.
Yeah. I blame Mac DeMarco's Chamber of Reflection for that.
Yeah, but that's a statement thing, right?
Absolutely.
I can absolutely like love the fact that he did that,
Right.
because that's the way he thought it should sound nice.
Yeah, and
That's
it made
just
sense for that song. But then everyone else is
right.
like, "Oh, that's how you make a cool song.
Let's
You
just
throw a shit ton of reverb."
do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do, and just drench everything into the same reverb. Well, in fact, he probably like used a lot of hardware on that, which he collected because he likes the way the hardware sounds,
Right.
and it's just still a one guy doing his songs, which is also a great thing. But like the big sessions with multi-platinum producers all in one room trying to get a great song out in 2003 or something didn't
Yeah.
really like, it wasn't really the best thing to
Well, it's a lot
to
of
happen.
visions that have to align.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's so well calculated. You know what I mean? Like everything needs to fit in their vision. And even like the older Lenny Kravitz songs, if I listen to them now, I just don't really like the way it sounds because it's so well calculated. Like
Right.
this is the rock sound that we're going for, and this is how it should sound, and it should sound big on a CD. So we crank the hell out of it, and then listening back to that in a streaming services era, it doesn't really make sense anymore.
No, it is wild to see how music has changed over the years, and it's even crazier to think about what is possible, what will be possible in the future.
Yeah. I'm very happy, or I'm very happy to be part of the do-it-yourself way of working, but also very excited to see what's coming up
Absolutely.
because it's getting better, and it's crazy to see how cheap everything is right now,
Right.
right? So it's pretty much everyone with just a laptop can get a free illegal copy of a sequencer or DAW and then start out working, right? So it's gonna be a lot more about creativity than big budgets and big like big stars or something. So
Right. Yeah, that's something I'm very excited about. Just the idea that everybody kind of has a voice in this and they have skin in the game because things are cheaper and people do want to hear like authentic creativity. People seem to be a little bit more aware of the suits coming in and trying to groom a celebrity into making the pop hits. And there will always be a degree of that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because some people do want to hear that stuff. But what's cool is there's so many opportunities for everyone to create something that's completely new, and that gives that itself creates new genres. It creates new like subsets of people who like a certain kind of music, and overall will kind of dilute the possibilities or dilute the limits of what music really can be.
exactly. And like young people can just get themselves a computer now and maybe even end up in big sessions for big artists because they've proven themselves to be very great musicians with a laptop, right? So that's something that was completely out of sight like 20 years ago even.
Absolutely.
So that's a great development, and I wish that's gonna happen a lot more, right, for new people.
I think so. Well, Calundé, that's going to be our time here on that note. It's been a pleasure talking about your creative process with you and the future of music. Everyone needs to check out your newest song, We Should, out on all the streaming platforms. And I'm very excited for your new 9-song project coming out in September. That's going to be incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's actually coming a new song this Friday as well. So that's,
cool. Look at that.
By the time this goes live, it's tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, this episode comes out tomorrow. This one's a quick turnaround. So when you're listening to this, tomorrow, Friday, your new song will be out. What's it called?
Yes. Found Without Searching.
Found Without Searching. Great name. Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to hear that. And thank you again for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
Of course. Calundé, I'll talk to you later. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.